It's been a while, but let's bring back Dr. Ryan McCorkle to talk about Wemby's concussion and other NBA injuries that might impact the Spurs in the postseason. Happy Monday. Welcome back to another episode of Spurs In Focus right here on YouTube, iTunes, Spotify. What else you got? Pocket Cast, YouTube Music, the list goes on and on. Don't forget about the Spurs In Focus Substack, completely free. Hit subscribe. You become part of the crew. Thank you for making Spurs In Focus your first and only spot for all things San Antonio Spurs. You want to come here first every day. Ignore the rest. Come here to Spurs In Focus. My name is Jeff Garcia, longtime Spurs writer in San Antonio. Glad to have you all back. Hey, so it's been a long time since we had the medical side of NBA sports life. And for those of you who follow me throughout the years, I usually bring back Dr. Ryan McCorkle. He's obviously a doctor based out in Austin. And we're going to be discussing briefly, I know it's a little stale now, but just his thoughts on Wemby's concussion. We know he's back, so yay, go Spurs go. But what did he think about it? Were there any telltale signs the moment Wemby's face smashed into that court that he saw, and just his thoughts on the process? And then we're going to get to other injuries that might impact the Spurs. Knock on wood, not your silver and black. But the way things are kind of tracking right now, it looks like the Spurs and Wolves could meet in the next round. Obviously, these could change, so keep that in mind. But Minnesota suffered two significant losses to Anthony Edwards and Dante DiVincenzo. We're going to get into that in just a few seconds. This is going to bring in our guest, Dr. Ryan McCorkle. What's going on, buddy?
Hey, Jeff, it's good to see you.
Good to see you too, man. A long time, which is, I always joke with Doctor. I always tell him, I'm not ignoring you, Doc, when I don't want to talk to you. It's just, there's no injuries with the Spurs to really talk about it until recently. But then I said, why don't we expand this? Let's talk about other NBA injuries that can impact the Spurs down the road. So we'll talk about that. Hey, everybody, make sure to follow him on Instagram at Austin EM Doc. He's with the emergency and backstage physician in Austin, Texas, medical director for Texas football and Austin FC. He has you covered, and a big live music fan. Man, I can only imagine the amount of live concerts you've seen.
Hey, I'm pretty lucky. I've always said, try to find a way to get paid to do things you would do for free.
There you go.
I'd be at these shows anyway, so it was nice to find a way to make it into a little bit of a career.
Awesome. All right, well, let's dive into it here. And again, everybody, Doctor and I, we know, kind of stale now, but Wemby's concussion, he's out of the protocols. He returned to the court yesterday for game 4. Yes, thank goodness. But when you saw Wemby's fall and the moment his face just planted right on that court, were there any telltale signs in your medical opinion that, you know what? Yeah, this guy kind of conked himself out?
Sure. I think you could see right after the impact, and you could actually see the force of the impact is pretty disturbing as well. But the fact that you could see that he was dazed, he wanted to get up, but clearly wasn't ready to get up. It was nice that his teammates recognized that and told him to stay down.
Mm-hmm.
But there was definitely an altered level of consciousness there.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't knocked out, what we call loss of consciousness, but he was definitely altered there. And that's a concerning sign for a concussion.
What was interesting when I saw it in live when it just happened, it was like if his eyes like just wanted to shut, and then he did one more movement where he tucked his hand under his head, and then he was out, or at least momentarily. And then when he got up, Doctor, I noticed a few things too. He was kind of stumbling. He got himself out, kind of woozy. And then I don't know if you saw the video, but he reacted and threw his hand back to stabilize himself. Were those other signs as well?
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like you could tell he wasn't completely with it, that there's an altered level of consciousness there. And that's always concerning after a head injury, but you need to go through the concussion protocols, get the workup, got a CT initially, the best test, and then probably an MRI after that.
So what is a concussion?
Concussion is a trauma to the brain without one of the real significant injuries that we were at emergency medicine, that being bleeding in the brain, a subarachnoid hemorrhage, a subdural hemorrhage, a epidural hematoma. Those things are the things that require neurosurgical intervention most of the time. A concussion means you don't have those. It's not something surgical, but there's been an injury to the brain with some symptoms that are persisting after the injury.
Does it take much for anybody to get a concussion? I mean, it looks like it needs some significant force for it to happen.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be pretty significant head trauma that for it to be noticeable initially. I think what we found with CTE with NFL players is it wasn't the big impacts like this with Wemby that were the predictor of long-term problems from concussions. It's the repeated small trauma, like those linemen who continually hit helmets every play after play after play.
Yeah.
That's much more damaging. That's a good thing for basketball players because I mean, while head trauma is not unheard of, it's not a common thing to see in the NBA.
Yeah, and then he got up under his own power. He exited the game under his own power. I had a fan react to the incident. I want to get your thoughts on this. He speculated that the reason why perhaps Wemby just went to the locker room in a hurry because maybe he wanted to vomit as a symptom to a concussion. Is that true?
Is that a symptom? Is that
yes?
Yeah, absolutely. Nausea and vomiting and those are concerning. That's can also be a sign of one of those hemorrhages we were talking about. But I'm sure he got a CAT scan probably within an hour, looking for those injuries. But yeah, nausea and vomiting is a real concerning symptom, especially until you ruled out those really life-threatening injuries, those bleeds in the brain.
Yeah, I can recall in high school, I suffered a concussion. I was messing around with the friends in the streets. Yes, back in the day, everybody, kids used to play out in the streets, and that's what we did. You would come in when the street lights come on, and we were skateboarding, and we're going downhill, and I lost my balance, and I went head first, and I hit my head right on that pavement. And the last thing I remember was everything going black, and that's it. And then I wake up, and I was in my friend's house, and his mom was tending to me in the bathroom with scrapes and bleeding everywhere, so those are kind of scary. Those are very, very scary. And I can only imagine what Wemby went through. Talk about the fact that his height, does his height and weight play any factor to this? Because, that's a long way down for a guy who's 7'4".
I mean, that's really the only way that it's involved is, that's a long distance to go and a lot of, extra, space there for physics to act that you're picking up speed, the further you fall until his head hits the ground. So it's moving faster than it would be somebody who's falling from a lower height. So that can in fact impact the force with which his head hits the ground and then make it worse for his long-term symptoms that may develop.
Were you surprised he traveled with the team? With the Spurs being the Spurs and they take every precaution and then some. It was, for me, it was a little surprising that they put him on the travel plan and he came to San Antonio to Portland. Your thoughts?
I don't think the travel is really going to impact, the way he moves through the protocol. I'm sure that also he was pretty close to being finished with the protocol before the prior game. So there's probably more because it's possible that he could have played, if he'd have cleared the last, a couple of tests in the protocol with no symptoms. So, and plus, I think it would just create a whole lot more distress among the fans if he did not travel. That he's going to be out for longer. Once you see him on the bench and see that he's pretty functional and having no problems just sitting around at baseline, if you feel better about his ability to come back sooner.
Yeah, absolutely. In that game 3, he was active. He was getting up. He was even talking trash to the Blazers, clapping, cheering, doing those mean faces. So he looked like he was perfectly fine. To me, in my opinion, I thought he could have played in game 3 if he had cleared all the protocols. But no, he looked like he was good to go. So yes, Wemby is back and we are happy. But that's not the only injuries that could impact the Spurs down the road. And no, not to the silver and black. As things are standing right now, Doctor, it's on track for the Spurs and the Wolves to meet in the second round. Minnesota's taking care of business versus Denver, and of course the Spurs are handling the Portland Trailblazers, so they look destined to meet. But they could come into San Antonio, the Wolves that is, without 2 significant players. That is Dante DiVincenzo and Edwards. Let's start with DiVincenzo. Just seconds into that game 4 versus Denver, he just went down. Non-contact injury, came out to be an Achilles, torn right Achilles. He is done for the season. Talk to us about non-contact injuries, especially to the Achilles.
Ha! Let's fight! Bring it on! Take this, not enough!
First of all, I will say that I'm a big Jokic fan, so don't count him out, especially with the two jig injury.
Here we go.
With no Ant, they could definitely come back even down 3-1.
Yeah.
But yeah, Achilles is almost always a non-contact injury. If you remember Tyrese Halliburton, Kevin Durant, Kobe, all those were non-contact. It almost always is. And when you saw it in real time, you knew what it was. I mean, you can see the way his foot planted. You can see that kind of that ripple that goes up the back of the leg in slow motion. And those are the scientific parts. The non-scientific part and I want to separate those things as science is important to me, that do you really see that panicked look on their face when they the way he was calling the trainers over, like, come here, like he knew something was really wrong, and immediately just like, well, that's an Achilles, for sure. But
in your experience in dealing with sports and athletes and just everyday people, is it looks, but I always notice too, like with the rare occasion, a situation, but for the most part, it looks like players, they know something is wrong, they feel it, but you don't see them really wincing in tremendous pain. Like Dante was just sitting there, is going like, okay, yeah, come over. Is it a painful injury? Because looks like some players have that reaction, and some players, as we saw Dante, was like, yeah, I hurt myself, moving on.
I mean, people's level of pain that they report with it is real variable, but yeah, a lot of times it is like, it doesn't hurt that badly, but that doesn't, the same with the ACL. A lot of times people who have torn ACLs will say, I don't feel pain. It just feels unstable. Like my knee is going to just dislocate anytime I turn anyway. I think the same with the Achilles. It's not even that, because they get up and walk off the court most of the time.
They do. Yeah.
It's not that you can't walk. It's that you can't push off. So anytime you try to plantar flex is what they call it. When you push off on your toes, it's just not, you have no Achilles. It's just not going to work. And, the lower leg injury, I think anybody with any kind of experience with this knew it was an Achilles, but also it's a diagnosis you can make in seconds. Anybody who wants to reach behind their ankle, kind of at the level of what they call the malleoli, the knobs in your ankle, if you reach back there where the Achilles is, you can feel that real thick rubbery tendon. And when there's an Achilles tendon, it's just gone. You reach back there and it's just boggy, nothing like that strong band of tissue there. And so you just, when in the ER, when people go, oh, I think my Achilles torn, can you tell me, do we need imaging or whatever? I just reach back there and feel both ankles and be like, yeah, it's gone, man. You can feel it's just gone.
Wow.
So you're going to get one so they can plan the operation, but it's a diagnosis you can make like that.
Yeah. What leads to Achilles tears? Is it just simple wear and tear? Is that what it is? Improper stretching?
There's multifactorial is, it's kind of a trash can thing to say, but it is true. Just as a bit of trivia, if you remember antibiotics like ciprofloxacin, they're called fluoroquinolones. We found that taking those is associated with Achilles tears.
Interesting.
That's interesting. A lot of why we don't use them in young, healthy people anymore. But second of all, I think this is more indicative of a larger problem in especially the NBA, is the level of training and supplementation that we can do increases the muscular strength, the explosion, that these players are able to generate, but none of that can affect the strength of your tendons and ligaments. So while your muscles get stronger, the connections between those muscles and your bones, which is what tendons and ligaments are, doesn't change. So when that force increases exponentially, and you can't change the strength of those ligaments and tendons, I think that's why we're seeing more tendon and ligament ruptures. These players are so explosive, but those tendons just can't take the force.
And that kind of circles back to Wemby, because remember, he's very big into yoga, the flexibility and, being malleable, I guess. And, stuff like that seems to work so far in his career. Knock on wood, it does pay off. Once again, we're talking with Dr. Ryan McCorkle, emergency backstage physician in Austin, Texas, medical director for the Texas football team and Austin FC. Speaking of UT, by the way, hear about that donation that Michael Dell gave. I mean, they're going to name a new medical complex center after his name in 2030. I think he was donated upwards of billions of dollars to UT Medical. So
already the medical school is named after him, the Del Seaton Medical Center.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah, so this is going to be a more oncology focus. But yeah, so
Yeah.
that's really interesting and good for healthcare in Austin.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Again, we're talking about NBA injuries that could impact the Spurs, not necessarily in the silver and black, but with the Minnesota Timberwolves, if the the Wolves could get past the Denver Nuggets. Dr. Ryan thinks Denver still has a shot. So we'll see. If down 3-1 Denver there. So we shall see. Well, speaking of the Minnesota Timberwolves, but perhaps one of their more significant injury hits is Ant Edwards, their franchise player. He went out with a apparent left knee hyperextension, looked like it buckled, and he needed assistance to get off the court. Now, the Wolves didn't say his season is over. They just said he's ruled out for weeks. So they left it very wide open there. What did you see with Ant Edwards and his left knee?
You could see when he landed the hyperextension, it bent backwards. And that's always worrisome for a PCL. Sometimes even an ACL. ACL is usually more when you get kind of hit from the side or turn real awkwardly. But I was very concerned about a ligamentous injury and how lucky he is to have avoided that. Looks like he had an MRI, no ligamentous damage, just a bone bruise, and then the hyperextension. But it's kind of like calf strain, right? Calf strain now throws everybody's red flags up. Because most of those Durant, Halliburton all had calf strains right before they tore their Achilles. So the hyperextension, maybe he could wear a brace and, get out there because there's no true ligamentous injury, but it could set you up for a ligamentous injury. So nobody wants to put him back out there and have him tear his ACL the first game, put him back out there. But man, it's like a calf strain. You should have been managing it and it wouldn't have led to this more catastrophic injury.
Yeah. When I saw that video, I was like, whoa. I mean, you look like a banana when you just went like this. I was like, human legs not supposed to do that, go like backwards that far. So it looked a lot scarier than what it was actually diagnosed. So what's next for him is just simply rest, managing it, monitoring it. What do you think the Wolves will do with him moving forward?
I think you know the magic word, Jeff.
I know it. R.I.C.E.N. And you send it up. There it is. R.I.C.E.N. Let's see if I remember. It's been a while. It's rest, ice, compression, elevation, non-steroidal medicine, right? They got that right?
100%.
I got it. Yes. So basically, what I've learned is basically like aspirin and Advil and all that stuff.
Yeah, Advil, Tylenol, Motrin, acetaminophen, those things. Absolutely.
Yeah. So they said he'll be out for weeks. Generally, how long, if you give a timetable, would it take for him to recover?
With no ligamentous injury, they're just going to, I'm sure it's almost like a concussion protocol. They're going to put him through 3-on-3s, then 5-on-5s, and just see how it feels. Because you don't want to put him out there with it feeling unstable because Ant's game is so based on explosiveness, everything from his jumper to finishing at the rim. Like you're saying with Wemby, it's kind of great that his game is not necessarily based on jumping high, explosiveness.
Yeah.
I always say, just anecdotally, that you only have so many landings in your career. So when you're getting up that high and you're landing, eventually one of those landings is going to be awkward and it's going to lead to a bad injury. So it's good that somebody who has a game that's like Ant's, that's so airborne. We've seen this over and over and over again.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I never thought of it that way. That's interesting. Yeah, I never have so many landings before one catches up with you. That's pretty interesting. But circling back to overall, you got the Spurs, you got the Wolves, you got the Nuggets, etc. All these teams are in the field still, and they played already 82 plus games. Can you talk to us about what their bodies are probably going through? The rigors of the travel beyond the regular season. And then how important are those team doctors in this moment of the teams that are in the playoffs season?
Yeah, this is where we really think about, would a shorter season be great, 60 or 70 games, because this is where we start seeing injuries, is people that have put this many miles on their bodies this year. Now we're into, extended time and we see a lot of overuse injuries. And again, people will say, well, yeah, but they, players used to play 82 games all the time in the 80s and 90s and do fine. I would say that's not the case. Again, what we talked about, all the increase in explosiveness on both sides, there's just a lot more wear and tear when you're competing against athleticism that's in a different era now. But also, careers were shorter. You would not see a LeBron, even a Steph playing at 37,
Right.
all those things in the 80s and 90s, because again, you only have so many landings, you only have so many miles you can put on your body.
Right.
So I think that's why they need more of this quote unquote. Nobody likes load management but this is why we see more injuries as we get into this part of the season.
Yeah, load management. That's a word that a lot of, at least the fan side, they're like, "Why are you doing that, man? You play basketball for a living, Ooh, whoop de doo, whatnot." But yeah, no, I understand. Yeah, you can understand that side of the business. That's your assets. Those are your Ant Edwards, your Wimbies, your Jokers. You want to make sure your money makers in this case are well and fine, so your team can be successful, draw the fans, be a top of the NBA. So totally would get it. Yeah, but it's interesting. It's just because you start to wonder, man, like these guys' bodies must be hitting the wall. Then they got to break through that wall, and then you got to go on to the second round and play against a team where the level increases. You got to break through that wall. The psychological toll, the physical toll, and just the will just to keep on. It can be tough for these guys. And like you said, just because it's a different era doesn't mean the physicality is still there. You saw Joker almost lose it. Well, he did lose it with what was it, McDaniels the other night? Yeah, and stuff like that. Hey, real quick, what did you cite on that? Do you agree with Joker for defending the honor of the Nuggets? You don't run up the score on us, or maybe he went a little bit too far?
I mean, I totally understand, and I think anybody that's ever played with me, maybe sometimes you can lose your head a little bit when you're if they hadn't gotten beaten, so badly, then maybe it wouldn't have been so. That's probably one of those times where you just go in your post-game press conference and say, I thought that was a classless move.
Yeah.
And nobody who's played this game and respects this game would behave in that way, and he should be ashamed. And that's probably where it should have been taken care of. But yeah, to go approach somebody at their other bench, I guess, he knows his brothers are in the stands and he'll probably be okay.
Yeah.
But
yeah, those are some big boys too. I've seen them like whoosh. Those are giants.
They're scary on a different level.
That's scary, different. Hey, well, Doctor, before we let you go, get your thoughts on the Spurs so far. Again, as of this recording, we're recording this before Game 4, so keep that in mind. He's a doctor. I got to work with his schedule, everybody. Okay, but what do you think about this team, man? This Spurs team, man, just looks like you can't count them out for anything. Oh, down 15 in a playoff game on the road, they're done. And then next thing you know, like, a rookie took over, Dylan Harper, and saved their butts in Game 4. What do you make of this team, and what are you thinking? NBA Finals appearance?
Well, first, going back to what we were talking about load management, how many miles, I think the way the Spurs have managed Wemby is just a textbook course on, let's manage it for titles, for long runs, for longevity, and not just, making sure we get enough games to qualify for MVP or whatever. I also loved watching him do the math in his head there about how many minutes he's played. That was brilliant.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love this team. I love the fact that we're so set up for several years of being extremely relevant and championship contenders with all our guys that are under 25, that are on great contracts for some time, that seem to have a real pleasure in playing with one another. I think that's a big culture, can't really be underestimated, on guys that like each other and like being together and are growing up together, maturing together. It's just it's a really fun thing to watch and a fun thing to get behind.
Yeah, I mean, you get contributions from everybody in this playoff run. Obviously, Wemby's Wemby. He had a 40 and 15 rebounding. Okay, yeah, that's typical Wemby. But if Dylan Harper is seeing your screen, the way he played in Game 3, you've got the young kid in the background. You see him, Carter Bryant. That defense, 3 blocks in that Game 3 win and 0 turnovers for the young kid. And he's fighting through that rookie treatment from the refs. Getting called for ticky-tack fouls. But all in all, this team is just playing good. De'Aaron Fox kind of setting the ship. He had 18 points in that Game 3. They look like this is just, I don't know, say they're a juggernaut right now, but my God, they're close to it. Imagine this team next year with all this seasoning and experience they have, Doctor. My goodness, they could be running away with the season next year.
And I think that's what we talk about with the culture and them really actually liking each other can really lead to the longevity of the team, in that at some point we've got at least 2 or 3 guys who could be getting, 35 minutes on another team and making, a ton more money, or will be at some point. But I think that if you establish that culture, and I love these people, I know they care about me, and I enjoy being here, and we're winning championships, that's where teams can really become dynasties, is when people are willing to take a role that maybe I could be the number one player on a bad team, but I'd rather be the fourth best player on this team because I love being a part of this, and it's going to be part of my legacy, even after I stop playing. So that makes me hopeful that we've got something that can be built and last for years.
Yeah, kind of shades of the golden era of the Spurs with the big three with Manu and Timmy and Parker there, because those guys sacrifice money and playing time as well, to build something great in San Antonio. And they have 4 with the big three. One was just Timmy and David by themselves versus New York. But yeah, I mean, it's very eerily similar. Good history repeating itself. I hope so. Doctor, before I let you go, you still got hope for Denver, even though they're down in the series, huh?
I mean, when you're missing Anthony Edwards, it's like, you take the number one player off any of these teams left in the playoffs, and you got to say that a team like Denver still has a shot. I think Denver's a good example of, look at Aaron Gordon. He could be, or was, the number one player on the Orlando Magic. Yeah. I'll come here, I'll be the third best player, and I'll get a ring or 2 or 3 out of that. And that's more of the legacy that I want than being the best player on a bad or to below average team.
And just to think, these NBA players just begun. They've just started. So you got the excitement as the rounds and the series extend or over and moving on. Good thing your San Antonio Spurs are still a part of it. He is Dr. Ryan McCorkle. Once again, you want to give him a follow on Instagram at AustinEMDoc. He is emergency and backstage physician out in Austin, Texas, medical director for Texas football and Austin FC. Doctor, thank you for taking time out of your very busy schedule. I know you got patients and everything. Thank you for working with me and your time and your scheduling. We appreciate it. Quickly sneaker check. You're good. Nothing new.
Oh, got one. Right
he got one.
Let's see if you can see it. Let's see. Yeah, there we go.
Oh, those are nice.
Sabrina Ionescu's.
Nice.
You can make your own colorway, and let's put my number on it, my kid's name. So I really like these. These are my work shoes.
That's awesome. Yeah. Again, go follow him on Instagram. Excuse me. That's AustinEMDoc, because you'll see his travels. The concerts that he oversees as a medical director, the musicians he gets to take snap pictures with. It's pretty impressive. Again, AustinEMDoc over on IG, Instagram. Thank you, Doctor. Appreciated your time. Everybody else, we thank y'all for making Spurs In Focus your first and only spot for all things San Antonio Spurs. This is going to be your first and only place you want to come to when you need some silver and black talk. Follow us on, you got YouTube, obviously. YouTube Music. That threw me off. I need to know YouTube Music host podcast. I had no idea. Found that out.
Me neither.
Yeah. You got Spotify, iTunes, Pocket Cast. The list goes on and on. Go subscribe right now. The Substack, Spurs In Focus Substack, completely free. Matter of fact, every time you hit subscribe, Doctor's picking up the bill. So he's going to pay for the next 50 subscribers. You hit that subscribe, the bill goes right to him. Go run up his bill right now, everybody. And again, Google it, just Spurs In Focus on Substack, and you're good to go. We'll be back tomorrow to get you ready for the next Spurs playoff game. So for Dr. Ryan McCorkle, my name is Jeff Garcia, and now you're in focus with Spurs In Focus.